3.1, Excellence, What's New and How to Succeed. I'm very much delighted to introduce my good friends and colleagues, Captain Stelios Bambounis and Captain Gregory Kasapakis. Captains, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you very much for this kind introduction and your valuable support. I'd also like to thank you all for joining today's session, and I really appreciate your time and your interest in this important topic. As Dmitry mentioned, my name is Gregory Kasapakis. I have a strong background in the maritime industry with hands-on experience as a deck officer on both tankers and bulk carriers. And over the years, I've combined this practical experience with a deep understanding of the shipping regulation and industry standards, with a particular focus on SIRE 2 and RISQ. As part of my work, I conduct the training and the preparation session for prevention at sea auditors, helping ensure consistency and readiness and alignment with current best practices. In my current role as a maritime advisor, I support shipping companies with a wide range of projects, including pre-vetting inspections, port state preparation, navigation, cargo and mooring audits, incident investigations, VDR analysis, and safety campaigns. Next, I will hand over to my colleague, Captain Stelios Bambounis, who will introduce himself and share a bit about his background and experience as a co-lead for today's session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dimitri and Gregory, for the introduction and, of course, for your assistance throughout this process. I would also like, of course, to extend my sincere thanks to everyone for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time and interest in this important topic. So, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Stelios Bambounis, and I am a maritime professional with over 7 years of sea service as a mariner. In the recent years, I've transitioned into shore-based roles, such as Deputy DPA and CSO. Currently, I'm working as a senior maritime advisor, supporting shipping companies with SMS upgrades, gap analysis against TMSA, SIRE, RISQ 3.1, and RIBMS. Also, I participate in incident investigations and company preparation audits against TMSA and RIBMS standards. With that said, we are ready to move on to today's webinar. I will share the presentation with you right now. Okay, perfect. So, just give me a moment, please. Sorry about this. Sorry for this, just give me a minute. We have a technical issue with the display, but it will be fixed. This can happen in live. Okay. Okay, I believe now we are ready to start with the presentation. Okay, so apologies for this. This can happen. It's okay. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. We'll start with a short introduction to set the context. We'll continue with the key changes introduced in RISQ 3.1. Then we'll go through the key changes, as we mentioned, and of course the trends based on the industry experience, followed by highlights of the most common areas of non-compliance, recurring issues we frequently observe during inspections, And also we'll cover RightShip's validity matrix and how to respond effectively to findings, especially when it comes to root cause analysis. Then we'll go through the roadmap to help, of course, build the consistency and stay ahead of the vetting expectations. And in the end, we'll close up and begin our Q&A session. So let's now begin our deep dive in RISQ 3.1. Starting with the key changes that define the latest edition and how they impact the company and the vessel readiness, compliance, and operational standards. But first, an important question and everyone's question: why RightShip matters? As we all know, the dry shipping industry is evolving very quickly. RightShip's approach, of course, reflects that their questionnaire now places greater emphasis on safety, accountability, and consistency. Inspections today are not just about documents. They are about people, routines, and safety culture on board. Our aim is to help you understand what is changing, identify any gaps early, and guide you towards a successful and consistent performance under the RISQ 3.1. With that said, the current situation, as you may know, within a year on board a dry commercial vessel, about 80 to 100 drills are performed, about 8 to 10 visits per year for auditing, regulatory compliance, or other safety-related matters. And of course, the vessels are manned with seafarers who pass successfully the ship manager and manning agent pre-hiring process. Excuse me. Excuse me for this. Several training sessions, of course, are carried out. Saving training sessions are carried out for personnel familiarization and improve their risk perception. Of course, regular crew evaluation, safety meetings, toolbox meetings, and a library of risk assessments from the most common to the most critical operation. So, the total number of marine casualties and incidents reported from 2014 to 2022 was almost 24,000. For example, during 2023, we almost saw about 3,000 incidents, which is slightly above the average of the previous years. More than 80% of these incidents are attributed to the human element. Why? Did this condition just happen? No. We all know that this condition cannot suddenly happen. Okay, just give me a moment, please.
I think there's some issues with the connectivity. Gregory, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I will, due to some technical issues, I believe I will make the share.
Okay, better do, yeah, so we don't waste time, and hopefully Captain Stelios is coming back shortly.
Okay, just give me a minute.
Sure. All right, we can see you very well.
Okay.
Perfect.
You can see the presentation now.
Absolutely, yeah. Why RightShip
Okay.
matters. Gregory, thank you very much. Hopefully, Captain Stelios come back soon. His connectivity, basically. Again, we apologize for this, and yeah, Captain Gregory, the floor is yours then.
Okay. We shall wait I believe we shall wait Captain Stelios.
Okay. All right. So, wait to the audience while sorry for this technical short issue. I hope it is sorted out in few moments. Just can you please, I mean, for the questions you might want to raise, can you please use the chat button? Yeah, so we're here and we could see all the questions which you will post here, and we will answer them. So please don't hesitate, don't be shy to use the chat and post your questions or any comments you might wish to. Okay.
Okay, I believe I may continue with the part of
Okay, sure.
Stelios, and
Sure.
when he comes back, we will be ready. Okay. Now, why RISQ matters? As we all know, the dry shipping industry is evolving quickly. RISQ approach reflects that the questionnaire now places greater emphasis on safety, accountability, and consistency. Inspections today aren't just about documents. They are people, routine, practices, and safety culture on board. Our aim is to help you understand what's changing, identify any gaps early, and guide you towards a successful and consistent performance under RISQ 3.1. Now, with that said, the current situation is that within a year on board a dry commercial vessel, about 80 to 100 drills per year are performed. About 8 to 10 visits per year by third parties for auditing, regulatory compliance, or other safety-related matters are carried out. The vessels are manned with seafarers who pass successfully the ship manager and the manning agent pre-hiring process. Several training sessions are carried out for personnel familiarization and to improve their risk perception. Regular crew evaluation, safety meetings, toolbox meetings, etc. Library of unlimited risk assessment covering from the most common to the most critical operation tasks. But still, the total number of marine casualties and incidents reported from 2014 to 2022, it was almost 24,000, and it keeps increasing year by year. For example, during 2023, we saw almost 3,000 incidents, which is slightly above the average of the previous years. More than 80% of these accidents are attributed to the human element. Why is that? Did this condition just happen? No. We all know that this condition cannot suddenly happen from one day to another. Understanding the root causes help us take better steps forward. Of course, except from the human element, the vessel's age can also affect the vessel's performance. In regard to this, RISQ provided a revised timeline for vessel inspection age.
Gregory,
yes.
Thank you very much for covering for me, and apologies to everyone. There was a technical issue with the platform, but I think now it's fine. So you can continue, if possible, with the sharing. I will take from here, if it's okay with you. Thank you very much for covering.
Yeah. As well in this live broadcast, we may have some technical issues, so it's okay. Stelios, Captain Stelios may continue.
It's most common. Thank you again, everyone. So, in regards to this, RISQ provided a revised timeline for vessel inspection age. The vessel age threshold for inspections will be gradually reduced from 14 to 10 years over 4 phases, giving ship operators time to prepare for increased inspection frequency. This will consist of 4 phases. Phase 1 from 1st of October 2025, vessels aged 13 years and above will be included. In Phase 2 from 1st of April 2026, the age threshold will lower to 12 years. In Phase 3 from 1st of July 2026, it will be 11 years. And finally, in Phase 4, from 1st of January 2027, the final threshold will be set at 10 years. Moving on to one of the most important subjects for today, which are the key changes of RISQ 3.1 in comparison to 3.0. Here we have, number one, we have the additional requirements for formal training, such as cargo handling on ships carrying dangerous and hazardous substances, rigging and inspection of pilot ladders, mooring operations, hatch cover specific type of training. But a very important note here is that RISQ does not accept the tickle down method anymore, which means that someone teaching something to another person on board will not be accepted anymore. Number two, we have the revised guidelines for enclosed space, of course, including the enclosed space register. The new section for sewage treatment plan. And moving on, number 5, incorporation of latest industry evolutions such as alternative fuels, EDI, EXI, SAPOL, EPL, SEMP, and etc. And lastly, number 6, the additional guidelines and inspection requirements such as fall protection device, inspection and maintenance of electric arc welding, portable containers or tanks containing foam concentrate, oil-water separator, safe means of access, and etc. So, okay, that was the most important key changes. Gregory, please walk us through the RISQ's current inspection approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Stelios. Thank you. Another major key change in this in the RISQ 3.1 is the inspection framework. We now have two main approaches. The one is the traditional inspection, the physical inspection, where all questions are verified on board. And the other one, the option 2, is a hybrid approach where certain documentation is reviewed remotely before the physical inspection. This streamlines the process and allows more efficient use of inspection time. Now, questions are categorized as: Mike stands for related to documentation and records. Victor stands for physical verification required. Victor and Mike are the questions that reviewed remotely but still require the physical follow-up. Blank stands for unclassified. Understanding this classification helps teams better prepare and assign responsibilities to qualified crew. Now, speaking of responsibility, a competent person is someone with the necessary education, experience, and training to do the job correctly. This definition is the key for ensuring accountability and inspection readiness, and it's now formally introduced by the RISQ for the first time. Many of you may wonder, why now? Because past incidents, accidents, and repeated port state control deficiencies have shown the need for higher standards and a clear responsibility. By defining who is competent, RISQ aims to ensure tasks are not just completed, but done correctly and safely. In practice, companies often meet this requirement by using certified vendors. For example, for OX acetylene line pressure testing, many rely on certified local port vendors or chemical suppliers, a reliable and often more cost-effective solution. Remember, the goal is not just to pass an inspection, but to demonstrate what we know and what we are doing, and of course, why we are doing this. Moving on, this chart clearly shows that the number of the findings during RISQ inspection is increasing, especially since RISQ 3.1 was introduced. The rise from 18 to 30 findings isn't by chance. It reflects how the new standard has become more detailed and wide-ranging. Both office teams and vessel crews now have to manage more requirements, answer more questions, and handle a stricter review process. As a result, inspections require much more preparation, responses take longer, and there's a growing need for a continuous follow-up, particularly of the office side. Moving on, here we can see the main areas where the most issues are found during the pre-vetting inspections conducted by Prevention at Sea under the RISQ's RISQ 3.1 framework. As you can see on the left side, we summarize the number of the findings collected over several years. This helps us see exactly which areas keep generating the most findings. At the top of the list is the ISM system, which represents nearly 20% of all findings. These are mostly related to outdated or missing procedures and situations where the crew isn't fully familiar with the safety management system. Next is the machinery space, where we often see problems with plant maintenance. Things like equipment not being properly maintained, malfunctions not being handled in time, or defects left open for too long. For navigation, a lot of observations relate to passage planning, ECDIS management, and incomplete bridge paperwork. This shows how critical it is to keep bridge team routines consistent and well documented. Pollution prevention findings are also significant. These often come from small but important issues: missing posters, neglected procedures, or equipment that's not fully ready. Finally, cargo operation rounds out the top 5, often due to loading, unloading procedures not fully followed or documentation not properly updated. The important message here is that many of these issues are preventable with strong procedures, ongoing crew training, and regular internal checks. The more familiar the crew is with the vessel system and the company's procedure, the smoother these inspections go. Now moving on, one of the biggest challenges we're seeing is missing or incomplete procedures in the safety management system. As I said earlier, over half of these findings are linked to this issue. To give a couple of examples, some vessels don't have clear rules about personal device use on the bridge, which, as we all know, is becoming more and more of a safety issue. In other cases, there is no proper risk assessment for enclosed spaces, and sometimes even basic registers are missing. The bottom line is pretty straightforward. Companies need to regularly review and update their SMS so it's fully in line with the latest RightShips guide and RISQ 3.1. But more importantly, it's not about having procedures written down. Crews need to be familiar with them and actually follow them during daily operations. Now let's move to another area we keep seeing issues with, the documentation area. The same problems keep showing up. Records that are missing, outdated, or not filed properly. For example, in question 3.6, many vessels don't record when the master hands over control to the pilot. That's a simple but very important safety record. I know many of you might have questions regarding this finding, and I will pass it over to Stelios so we can have a deeper analysis on that.
Okay, thank you, Gregory. Yes, this is true, as we saw, as we've seen plenty of times during our preparatory audits, as we discussed with many clients before. We have this constant, let's say, argument about the transfer of con between master and pilot, which is a contradiction because most of the companies do not wish, and they have it in their SMS, that the master is not transferring the con to the pilot. The master will never transfer the con to the pilot. The master is always responsible for the vessel. But in some scenarios, in some ports, for example, in Panama Canal, in some Russia or China ports, the pilot is fully responsible for this, for the navigation of the vessel. So in some ports and in some areas around the world, it is required for the master to transfer the con to the pilot. So our suggestion is for a company that either they will include it that the master is transferring the con depending on the situation and the area, or they have to name every port, every area that they want to include. But anyhow, this is a constant contradiction that we have about the transfer of con. Gregory, thank you for this. You can continue.
Thank you, Stelios, for your nice clarification. I will move on to the next question, which is 10.1. We often find that mooring system management plans haven't been updated to follow MEG 4, even though it's been a mandatory for a while now. Under question 5.1, the oil record book continues to be a weak point. Entries are sometimes missing or not filled out correctly, which can lead to a bigger compliance issues. The good news is that all these findings, all of these things is the things that we can fix with proper training, clear checklists, and regular internal checks. We can avoid most of these problems. Equipment issues continue to appear frequently during vetting inspections and remain a key area of concern. We often found that mooring fittings haven't been updated to meet MEG 4 standards. Preventive maintenance systems, or PMS, are also not always followed properly. For example, under question 3.13, some vessels hadn't serviced the gyro compass as required by the manufacturer. In question 9.3, we see problems with hatch covers with no records of 3-month checks or ultrasonic tests being done. The sewage treatment plan keeps showing up as a common cause of detentions, often because of poor maintenance and monitoring. And we are also seeing a worrying trend with welding and gas burning equipment, where regular checks aren't happening and the risks aren't fully recognized. All this shows how important it is to follow PMS strictly, make sure the crew is familiar with the equipment requirements, and carry out regular equipment inspections. One of my favorite parts is the training. Training is still one of the most important parts of staying compliant. And here we saw that many of the findings we see actually come down to gaps in training. For example, closed space entries are often done incorrectly, not because the crew is careless, but because they haven't had the proper instruction or enough practice. Under question 9.2, we even found masters and chief officers who hadn't received any hatch cover maintenance training specific to their vessel, which is clearly a risk. We also see problems in mooring operations where MEG 4 procedures aren't fully understood, and in emergency drills where crew go through the motions but don't really absorb the training. Even in navigation, with forms and bridge routines, we often see that understanding is only a surface level. So it comes down to this simple question. Can our crew clearly explain what they're doing if an inspector asks? If we are not sure, if we are not so sure, that's exactly where our training efforts need to focus. So at this point, I will kindly pass the presentation to my colleague, Stelios, who will guide us through the next topic.
Thanks, Gregory, for the insightful information. It is always useful to see some past findings, to have a database. This is basically one of the most important things for a company in order to avoid future mistakes and findings such as these ones. So we'll continue with the RISQ validity matrix. The RISQ inspection validity matrix is a tool used to determine the validity period of a vessel's inspection based on the severity and number of findings during this inspection. The validity matrix has been prepared by RISQ to display how many months the inspection will remain valid, and it is based on 4 criteria. Number one, the total number of findings. Number two, the quality of close-out documents, root cause analysis. Number three, the severity of findings, which these under RISQ are categorized as low risk, minor issues with no immediate safety impact, medium risk, issues that could affect safety or operations if left unaddressed and required, of course, corrective actions, and high risk, critical failures posing immediate threats requiring urgent corrective actions to prevent serious incidents. And finally, the most important, the showstopper findings. A showstopper finding is one that, due to its serious nature, will render the whole inspection as unacceptable, regardless of the severity of other findings and irrespective of whether the issue is rectified before the conclusion of the inspection. This will render the whole inspection as unacceptable. So, moving on, in general, RISQ has established an average number of 23 findings as benchmark. Findings exceeding 23 will negatively impact the validity of the inspection, while findings below 23 will contribute positively to the inspection outcome. The validity is based on the number and the severity risk of a finding. They provide a 3, 6, 9, and 12 months validity depending on each case. Let's now look at how the quality of your root cause analysis directly affects the inspection validity you receive from RISQ. A good root cause analysis shows full understanding of the issue. It identifies the root cause, not just the immediate error. It includes corrective and preventive actions and, of course, applies learning across the whole fleet. As a result, RISQ allows more findings and still grants longer validity periods up to 12 months. In an average root cause analysis, may acknowledge the problem but often lacks depth, thorough analysis, and focus on prevention. As a result, the findings typically have shorter validity, usually 6 to 9 months, and inspire less confidence in an effective management follow-up. And lastly, we have the poor root cause analysis, which is something generic, superficial, or even incomplete. It may blame individuals, miss the root cause, or simply state that the issue was corrected. Even a small number of findings can lead to 3 months validity, or even an unacceptable outcome. To summarize, the number of findings matters, but the quality of your response matters even more. So the real question is not just how many findings did we have, but how did we handle them and what did we learn? With that said, we are moving on to an example on a finding response. We have here the finding from RISQ 3.1 for question 4.19. The hydrostatic release unit on the life rafts was incorrectly rigged. The shackle connecting the painter had been made fast to a fixed point on the cradle. So, which of the following root cause analysis is the most suitable? This one mentioned that it was an omission by the responsible personnel which was rectified on spot after pointed out by the inspector. Master talk with safety officer and explained that such mistake should not reoccur. From my experience, these replies as root cause analysis are not such common these days, but they still exist. Moving on to the next one, which is this, where we start with a correction. The painter lines were connected and secured properly, poster identifying each component and proper connection of painter line, etc. We have the immediate cause, shackles were not attached correctly, and safety officer did not verify the proper connection since the vessel was under multiple activities. We have the root cause, assigned personnel was not fully familiar or no supervision by the safety officer, or comprehensive instructions were not posted on site. And finally, we have the preventive action, which is on-site demonstration for the function of automatic and manual release, or demonstration during abandonship drills, distribution of specific industry guidance amongst the fleet, or even a remote survey amongst the fleet by the company's safety officer. That was an example of a complete root cause analysis, identifying the technical issue, tracing back to human and procedural gaps, and putting fleet-wide solutions in place. Of course, always we have to remember that the attachment of closeout evidence will also enhance the quality of the submitted response. So, as you can see, a complete RCA, root cause analysis, goes beyond just fixing the issue. And that leads us naturally to the bigger picture. How can we ensure ongoing compliance and system-wide readiness? Gregory, please walk us through the compliance roadmap.
Yes, thank you, Stelios, once again. Regarding the roadmap for achieving excellence, the compliance map, we begin with the management of change. This is where it all starts. We define how this change will be managed, set clear goals, and decide how we will track progress along the way. SMS gap analysis. We review the current SMS system, safety management system, line by line, comparing it to the new standard. This helps us see exactly where we're falling short. SMS upgrade. Once we know the gaps, we update or create new procedures to meet the new requirements. Now, training and familiarization. Even the best procedures won't work if people don't understand them. So we train both office staff and crew to make sure everyone knows what's expected. Implementation. Now it's time to put everything into the practice. The new procedures become part of a daily operations. Preparatory audits and mock inspections. We run trial audits to simulate real inspections. This helps us catch any remaining issues before the actual inspection takes place. Rectification of findings. If we find problems during this practice runs, we fix them right away, so we are ready for the formal inspection. Monitoring and measuring. Once everything is in place, we track how well it's working, we check KPIs, monitor crew understanding, and make sure the system is performed as planned. And then, verification. We verify that everything is fully in place and working through external audits, on-board spot checks, or third-party reviews. Step by step, this process helps us build real confidence that we are fully compliant and ready for any inspection. This structured approach not only ensures compliance, but helps embed a sustainable safety culture in line with modern inspection expectations. Moving on with our preparation process that follows a clear two-step approach. Remote preparation and onboard preparation. We will start with remote preparation. First, we exchange all the necessary documents and materials. Then we carry out a remote inspection, reviewing records, logs, reports, and checklists. This helps us identify findings early, before even setting foot on board. Spotting these gaps in advance allows us to correct them ahead of the physical inspection. Then we move on to the onboard preparation. We conduct the onboard inspection, provide on-the-job training as we observe daily operations, identify any additional findings, and carry out preventive actions through root cause analysis. Now, what happens after we identify these findings from both phases? When we go into the actual vetting inspection, we perform root cause analysis on the findings, analyzes the root causes behind those findings. At the same time, we categorize the issues by source, as plant, equipment or system, people, crew knowledge, training or behavior, and process regarding the procedures or management systems. This structured approach ensures that by the time the official inspection takes place, the vessel is not only compliant, but well organized and ready turning inspections into an opportunity for continuous improvement. Now, let's wrap up with a few key takeaways from our today's discussion. The industry is currently in a transition period. Things are changing, and the companies need to adapt to evolving vetting requirements. Vetting helps in adopting the proactive mindset and preventive culture. Vetting isn't just about passing inspections. It helps build a safety-first, forward-looking mindset. RISQ is here to stay. RISQ will continue to be a major player in the vetting process, so preparation is not one-time thing. Vetting is expected to be stricter. Standards will continue to tighten, making early preparation even more important. Compliance comes at a cost. However, this is the only fraction of the cost when things go wrong. Investing in compliance is far cheaper than dealing with incidents or failed inspections. Dry bulk ship managers need to review their current ship management procedures and take action in a timely manner. Don't wait. Review procedures regularly and fix issues before they turn into problems. Invest time and resources to develop and maintain preventing expertise. Ongoing training and dedicated resources are needed to stay prepared. Auditing by third parties will increase. We should expect more frequent independent audits from external parties. Initiate continuous compliance programs. Compliance isn't one of a task. It needs to be part of daily operations, monitored and improved continuously. Now, before we finish, I want to leave you with one final thought. As I believe most of you have been on board or work in the office or work in the shipping industry. We often say safety first. And while it's an important message, sometimes we hear it so often that it loses its meaning. So instead, let's use the return home safe, because that's what it's really all about. It's not about just inspection, audits, or passing vetting. It's about making sure that every crew member, every office colleague, every one of us gets home safely to our families. All the procedures we review, all the documents we update, all the trainings we provide, they all serve the same goal: to create a safer environment, to prevent accidents, to help us continuously improve, and most importantly, to protect lives. At the end of the day, that's the great success. Everyone returns home safe. So that was the case from my side. I would also like to add, Stelios, to this conversation, to this conclusion, if you want to add something regarding this matter.
Yes, I could not agree more with the message return home safe. It says everything. It reminds us that behind every procedure, every checklist, every policy, there are people, real lives, their families. Yesterday we have also the Seafarers Day. It was Seafarers Day. So we have real people. And when we keep that in focus, safety becomes more than just a role. It becomes a shared responsibility. So let's carry that mindset with us in every decision we make, big or small. Because at the end of the day, success is not just measured by performance or reports. It is measured by everyone walking through their front door or from the vessel, safe and well. This is what truly matters. Thank you, Dimitri. If you can add something.
I'm taking over, guys. First of all, I deeply apologize to the audience for technical issues we faced. It was sorted out, and thank you for your patience. Captains, thank you very much for being strong enough to take this challenge with technical issue and continuing. Well done to both of you, and indeed, thank you for sharing your expertise and views. It's valuable insights into RISQ 3.1, and thank you also for some practical takeaways. Indeed, as Stelios mentioned, we had celebrated yesterday International Day of the Seafarer. and we all thank them, those who are navigating the world oceans. So a little bit of, because I'm meeting a lot of customers, and I would like to be a little bit provocative here. So basically, there's an ongoing discussion in the maritime industry, and there are pros and cons, different opinions, but how does RISQ 3.1, as well as other standards, by the way, impact life on board? Does it add to the workload, to the stress and fatigue of the seafarers, or it actually prioritize the safety and well-being? This is a little bit provocative before I start the Q&A session. And here we start with Q&A. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat. Yeah, I will take them all and address to the speakers. And again, just keeping this provocative approach, and as an ex-crewing manager for many, many years, what I would like to ask from my side first, giving some chance and time to our guests to put their questions in the chat. Looks like RightShip changes seem unfair and excessive. There is opinion, we hear a lot of it. How can the vessels realistically keep up? So who can take this challenge, guys? I mean, of answering? Stelios, Gregory?
I will take on this. First of all, I want also to mention that in our previous slides, before answering your question, I will mention that in previous slides we sent about October 2025, about the 13 years of older age. The correct one is that from 1st of July starts the implementation window, which will end on the October 2025. So the implementation window will start earlier from July, and it will end on October, where it will take place as a practice. So to answer your question, it's a good also question, and it's also a common contradiction. It is a common concern across the whole industry that the latest change introduced under RISQ and RISQ 3.1 feel too strict or demanding. But it is important to clarify something. Except for a few process-related points, most of the RISQ 3.1 requirements are not RightShip's own. In fact, nearly all of the questions are directly sourced from existing maritime requirements, including SOLAS, MARPOL, ISM, STC, WMLC, MEG4, as we saw earlier, and other regulatory frameworks. That's why every question in the questionnaire clearly references its origins. These are standards we should have already implemented across our companies and vessels. If these systems had been properly in place, industry-wide of course, many vetting bodies, classification issues and compliance problems would not exist, and if they did, they would not be so impactful. However, rather than viewing these requirements as unfair, companies should reframe them as part of a broader shift towards transparency, accountability and preventive safety. To keep up effectively, the companies could invest in internal preparation systems, including proactive inspection preparedness sessions or effective document control or regular operational reviews. They could also develop a risk-based mindset where safety and compliance are aimed in the daily operations, not just during the inspection day or a few days before the inspection. They could also create a strong feedback loop between vessel and shore teams to review the findings, align their expectations, and improve their practices. And lastly, of course, they could prioritize and support, not blame, so that the crew understand not only what it is expected, but why it matters. As we said, yesterday was the Seafarers' Day. They are human beings. We've been in this position, most of us. So training is not something simple. It's not something such as we provide a training to a seafarer and this is the end of the story. We have to understand what he knows, what did he understood from the training he undergo. When he understands a training completely, this will be the time that he will be able to practice better and more safer on board. Anyhow, ultimately, we need to change our perspective and not blame someone for identifying gaps. Dimitri, I think that was everything. You can continue, please.
Sure. Thank you, Captain Stelios. It was from your heart. I felt it, you know. So thank you for that. Yeah, indeed. There's another question came. How can we ensure, again, I'm talking about crew, how can we ensure the crew is fully prepared for the hybrid inspection model under RISQ 3.1? And if you can clarify, what does that mean, a hybrid inspection?
Yes, of course, Dimitri, I will take this question. I will try to answer it as good as I believe I know. So to prepare for this hybrid model, which combines remote documentation review and physical onboard verification, companies must align both shore-based processes and seaboard practices. Key steps, I believe, include the pre-inspection audit, the remote one, and we must ensure that all statutory documents, training records, SMS manuals, and maintenance logs are complete, up to date, and accessible for us to review it remotely. The other one is the onboard preparedness. We must inform the crew, we must conduct inspections focusing on areas, let's say something like navigation practices, safety drills, and equipment condition. Crew must be prepared. I believe the next one is that crew briefing and familiarization. We must train the crew to confidently explain procedures. This is one of the basics, I believe, and one of the most important part is that the crew is not confident. They are afraid of the inspector. They are afraid of their jobs. So we must train crew to confidently explain the procedures, to demonstrate safety routines, and locate the required documentation. Remember, and as one inspector once told me that when the inspector comes on board, the crew member needs to tell him what does he do daily, on a daily basis. Nothing more, nothing less. He knows the answer. They may afraid for some reason. So train crew is very important. And then consistency checks, maybe by shore staff and onboard personnel, that must have a common understanding of risk controls, procedure, or and equipment operation to avoid contradictory responses. So I believe those four approaches ensures a seamless inspection experience that satisfies both the remote and onboard components of the RISQ 3.1, of course. That was it. I believe I covered this question. Dmitry, we can't hear you if you talk.
Sorry, guys, I'm back. Yeah, an interesting question about SMS. What steps should be taken to ensure safety management system reflects the changes introduced in RISQ 3.1?
Okay, so Dimitri, I will say that updating the SMS to reflect the RISQ 3.1 involves both documentary alignment and operational reinforcement. The recommended steps are to conduct a gap analysis between the RISQ 3.0 and 3.1 to identify new or revised requirements, such as we said, formal training, ship-to-ship operations, enclosed space, etc. Update your procedures to include elements such as cell phone usage restriction, bridge, any requirements that is included in the new questionnaire. Integrate regulatory compliance with the bodies such as MEG4, for example, to be compliant with mooring practices. And lastly, as we already mentioned, to train the crew and office staff on these updates to ensure a smooth implementation and readiness. A well-maintained SMS aligned with the RISQ 3.1 will strengthen both the inspection performance and the actual safety on board.
Thank you, Stelios. Very quickly, I will try to squeeze two more questions, at least one. Yeah, it's an interesting one came. Can you clarify who is responsible for evaluating our root cause analysis and rectification reports and how this evaluation is conducted? We have observed that classification of our reports appears to vary depending on the individual reviewing them. Is there a specific method or criteria used to assess whether a submitted response is considered good, average, or poor?
Okay, Dimitri, the responsibility for evaluating a root cause analysis and rectification report lies with RightShip's inspection superintendent, not the original vessel inspector, of course. This ensures a neutral and consistent review process. Each root cause analysis is assessed using RightShip's validity matrix, which we saw earlier, which, as we said, considers four factors: the number of findings, the severity of those findings, the showstopper finding, any showstopper finding, and the quality of the root cause analysis itself. To your observation about inconsistency, you are right that the quality of the root cause analysis plays a center role and is a most subjective element. A strong root cause analysis should clearly identify both the immediate and root causes, propose meaningful corrective and preventive actions, avoid vague statements or assigning individual blames, and include supporting evidence such as photos, training updates, procedural changes or logs, and etc. So, about RightShip classifies the root cause analysis such as good, average, and poor. And this classification directly affects the inspection validity period, from 12 months for a good one down to 3 months or even an unacceptable for poor submissions. This peer-reviewed process aims to reduce variability, but ensuring consistency still depends greatly on how thorough and clearly the root cause analysis will be prepared. That is everything, I believe. I hope I covered the question.
Okay, Captain Stelios, yes, thank you very much. We have a few more questions. However, the time is flown by very fast and it's time to wrap up our webinar. I see more questions and I see some from our friend Captain Fernando from Germany. So we'll come back, Captain Michael, to you with the answers as well to the rest questions raised. So unfortunately, I have to put a full stop here. And of course, I would like to say big thank you to all the guests we saw today who managed to join our webinar. Again, apologies for technical issues we faced, but finally we did it. And I hope this past hour with us was useful and informative. Okay, I would like to thank our Prevention team on the scene as well as behind the scenes for the teamwork. Yeah, and thanks for joining us. The last thing I really appreciate, it's a very trendy now to have the mottos. Yeah, and I really appreciate the motto shared by Captain Stelios and Captain Gregory. I'd like to expand it a little to a broader context to bring seafarers home safely every voyage and every time. Okay, so that's a broader, I think, thing. And so again, thank you very much to everyone. Stay tuned to our next webinar, which we will announce soon. At the moment, yeah, we wish everyone a pleasant day and see you soon again. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.